I want to share a more structured way to go about healing for people who are afraid to initiate healing. The healing process can come off very chaotic. And I know that some people don't like to go down a path that they just would rather bury. So I want to just give a very clean-cut way to go about it with an explanation as to why it's a good idea to go about it this way. And I will also talk about the other healing method that normal people try to do that doesn't really work out. So the first thing that I like to work on when I'm healing, whether it be something that happened that really affected me, maybe something that takes years for me to get over, right? I work on the internal things within myself, so then I can clear that before I try to extend any more energy outward. I think a lot of the times people avoid this part because they want to bury stuff, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to not want to bring stuff up, but I also think that if you are intentionally trying to develop yourself, it's a good idea to do some inner work. And inner work can look like inner child healing. You know, the inner child within you usually is the first to be affected by the weight of the world. Like, the weight of the world and the fragile inner child can't go together sometimes, and the inner child has to like draw itself back, and that's when it creates this ego. This ego protects the inner child from all the things that happen in the world. So then when things impact the self, it impacts the ego first. And yes, people experience a lot of like ego backlash when they're hardcore protecting this inner child. Like, people will go all out, even to irrational extents, to protect the inner child within them. And so this is why I believe that working on the inner child first can really help balance the ego. Because when you do the inner child work, you are giving yourself the compassion and the acceptance you need, so then the ego doesn't have to be so on guard. It can be more relaxed, and it can disarm itself, or you can disarm the ego by reassuring the inner child within you that it is safe, and that it is okay to feel, and that you can process emotions safely, and it's okay to be truthful and vulnerable with yourself. And I know that the truth can sometimes hurt, but the truth really does set you free, because once you can accept, then the healing becomes a lot easier to process. So when it comes to healing the inner child, I also think it should be paired with some masculine and feminine energy balancing within yourself. What I'm trying to say is you should balance the masculine and feminine energy within yourself, but also you should heal how you view masculine and feminine energy. And the reason why I say this is because when we have an inner child that has developed from, I guess, social conditioning of like our past, and the things that we've accepted growing up, and the things that we've seen, the inner child identifies what is masculine and what is feminine based off of what it knows. And we can have a distorted view of masculine and feminine energy. So for instance, the integrity of masculine energy is to protect, yes, to provide, to give, to be courageous, and it's truthful. It can get to the truth, even if it's kind of cold. It can see the truth, and it believes in the truth. When it comes to feminine energy is nurturing, it's emotional, it's sensitive, it's flexible, and it's in tune. It's in tune with energy, and it can receive energy. And if you didn't grow up seeing masculine and feminine energy play out this way, then your view of masculine and feminine energy can be distorted. that means that the inner child, the wounded inner child, will gravitate towards whatever feels is familiar. So it'll gravitate towards energies that play out in the way that it knows. So I think that when you're doing inner child healing, you should also heal how you view those energies and start seeing the energetic integrity behind those two kinds of energies. So after you do the inner work, a lot of people start to feel a lot more comfortable in themselves, to the point where they can physically carry out certain things. Like they have enough like fulfillment, like emotional fulfillment will start to come as a result of it. And then they'll feel energized or have enough energy to physically play out the characteristics of the energy that they have recalibrated within themselves. And this is where a lot of people stop, because it's like once you do the inner work, things kind of begin to flow a lot easier. So a lot of people just kind of go on with life like feeling fulfilled, yes, but they don't take it to the next level. And I'm here to tell you the next level. So the next thing you can do after doing that inner work is to do the emotional detaching. And a lot of people don't realize that when you do inner work, the emotional detachment becomes a lot easier. Sometimes people cling on to things emotionally. Even though they've done the inner work, they'll still cling on to things. And I think it just depends on the person or the individual soul or the matter, whatever the situation is if you decide to emotionally attach to it, right? But I've seen that after doing the inner work, the emotional detachment becomes a lot easier to do. And it's because energy expands outward, right? So by doing the inner work, you're almost dismantling the energy within you, that energy, and it can no longer spread. It can no longer function. Not that you're destroying the energy, but you're transmuting it from the inside out. You're changing it, and you're reprogramming it. So it's not going to function the way it did before, and therefore it's not going to emotionally draw you to those same things, or it's not going to find any benefit in clinging on to the things you emotionally attached to before. So after you do that, then it becomes a lot easier. Of course, after maybe a couple years, or maybe months, weeks, depends on what it is, right? Or maybe minutes, depending on what it is. But whatever it is, after you do the emotional detachment, then you can do the mental clearing. The mental clearing can occur because you have no emotional juice. Like there's no more juice to give this idea. So it dissipates from your memory. You dissolve it and you have more clarity. You can focus on other things now because you're not emotionally stuck to it, and you're not your inner child isn't wounded from it. You feel more clear to focus on other things outside of you or inside of you. And those steps make it a lot easier to heal just in general. Now I want to share what happens if you try to do this backwards, because a lot of people try to do this backwards, and I don't think it works. It may work for some people, but I don't think it works at all. So people will first, when they've gotten some kind of traumatic event, or they feel hurt, or something's happened, right? They'll try to forget about it first. They try to mentally clear it from their mind first. And yes, you can try to do that, but some people do this and there's still the emotional attachment to it. So what happens is that the mental body has memory, mental memory, and emotional memory, and physical memory, and the memory within your soul. Those are all different. So if you try to penetrate the energy that is, it expands from the inside out. If you try to penetrate that energy from the outside first, you're not actually dismantling it. You're just dimming it. and it's still there. It's almost like you're encapsulating it and then you're making it smaller, and then it's still like inside. It's like you just encapsulated that energy instead of just dissolving it by dismantling it from the inside. You're trying to kind of you're trying to sweep it under the rug is what I'm trying to say. Like, and it's still there. Like, it's still a density, and the emotional memory is still there, because emotionally you'll still probably resonate with situations that occurred on the frequency of that event. Physically, you may find yourself physically still playing out the characteristics of what was involved in that event. You know, like, let's say you got into a bar fight and it was traumatic, right? You want to just forget about the fight, but you're still going to go to the bar the next day, and you're probably still going to emotionally like drink yourself the next day because of the fact that that thing happened that you're trying to forget, and it doesn't work out. And then also the spirit, like the nature of the spirit is still going to try to play out those things, because it's the spirit, and it just is. It just does. So these things are still in the I want to say like the Akashic records. Like, it's still there. Like, you haven't dissolved it fully, because your soul is still containing it, so it's not gone. So that's why it doesn't work out. And you can see how, you know, you can put any kind of scenario you want into why it doesn't work out that way. Like, you can probably see how in your own life it won't work out just by trying to like push something in the back of your mind. So that's why I really vouch for doing inner work first, because once you do the inner work, you're allowing your etheric body and your spirit to see and to resonate at a different frequency. Like, you're allowing it access to a different frequency, and it's up to, you know, your free will and your mind, body, soul connection to get yourself on the next level. You know, so then you can really drop all that energy, all that karma and all that baggage, and really leave it behind you. It can take years, and it can take a long time, or it can take a short amount of time. It depends on your individual spirit. But a lot of people don't say mind, body, soul connection just because it sounds good. It's because to really get the full benefit of healing and rejuvenating and restoring the energetic integrity of your body, you want to really focus on how to balance all those parts of you. And I like to balance all those parts of me, not by starting with the mind, but I like to start with the spirit and the soul and the etheric body within me, or that contains me, the etheric shell that contains my soul. So I just wanted to share that, and I really hope that helps. If you comment, I'll read it, and if you want to subscribe, that is awesome. See you in the next